Have you ever found yourself standing in the kitchen, staring at the fridge, and suddenly thinking, wait, what did I come in here for? Or maybe you've gone to dial a number and completely blanked on why you were calling in the first place. If so, I want you to know something. It's okay. You're not alone. These little mental hiccups are incredibly common after 65, and more often than not, they're just that minor slips, not signs of anything serious. But I also know how unsettling they can feel. When your memory doesn't work quite like it used to, it's easy to feel frustrated or even a little frightened. You start wondering if it's just aging or something worse. And while it's true that our brains change as we get older, it's not all downhill from here. In fact, there's a lot you can do starting today to strengthen your memory and keep your mind as sharp and lively as your spirit. You see, memory isn't just something that fades with time. It's something we can nurture, protect, and even improve at any age. The brain is more flexible than most people realize. It's constantly rewiring, creating new pathways, and adapting to how we live our lives. And that means with the right habits, you can train your brain to stay focused, alert, and strong well into your later years. So in this video, we're going to talk about 6 simple but powerful tricks that can genuinely help improve your memory. These aren't complicated. They don't involve fancy apps or expensive supplements. They're everyday changes, things you can do with what you already have, and they're backed by real results. Let's start with something that's often taken for granted: attention. One of the most common reasons we forget things isn't because our memory is failing. It's because we never actually paid attention to the information in the first place. How often do you set your keys down while thinking about something else entirely? Then 2 minutes later, you're searching the whole house, frustrated and muttering to yourself. The trick here is to slow down and become more intentional with your actions. This is sometimes called mindful attention. When you do something, do only that thing. When you put your keys down, say out loud to yourself, I'm putting my keys on the kitchen table. It might feel silly at first, but speaking the action helps your brain encode the information. You're turning an automatic behavior into a conscious memory. A friend of mine named Alice, who's 71, swears by this. She started saying things out loud as she did them: where she put her purse, what she needed at the store, even the name of someone she just met, and little by little, her recall improved. It's like my brain stopped skipping steps. She told me, I just started noticing things more. Now, once you start giving your attention more deliberately, the next helpful trick is giving your brain regular exercise. Just like your muscles, your brain needs to be used if you want it to stay strong. But here's the key: routine mental activities only go so far. What your brain really thrives on is novelty. Trying something new, anything new, stimulates the creation of fresh neural connections. That might mean learning a new card game, picking up a hobby like painting or chess, or even brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. When you break out of routine, you give your brain a gentle challenge, which helps it stay adaptable and alert. There's a gentleman I know named Carl. He's 76 and took up learning the ukulele just last year. Not to become a musician, but simply because he'd never played an instrument in his life. At first, he struggled to even hold the thing properly. But a few weeks in, he noticed something surprising. Not only was he improving at the ukulele, but he felt sharper in conversation, quicker to recall details, and more energized in general. That's the power of newness. It wakes up the mind. And let's talk about sleep, because I promise you this one is huge. It might sound too simple, but consistent. Quality sleep is one of the most powerful tools you have to improve memory. Your brain does most of its memory filing during sleep. That's when it takes what you've experienced during the day and organizes it, locking it into long-term memory. Without enough sleep, your brain can't do this properly. You might have noticed that after a poor night's sleep, everything feels a little foggy. You forget names, you lose track of time, you can't focus. That's no coincidence. It's your brain's way of telling you it didn't get enough time to sort things out. Improving your sleep doesn't have to mean overhauling your entire routine. Even a few small changes can make a big difference. Try going to bed at the same time every night, keeping your room cool and dark, and avoiding screens an hour before bed. You might also want to try something calming before bedtime, like reading a physical book or listening to soft music. A woman I once worked with, Linda, used to think her forgetfulness was just part of aging. But after improving her sleep, turning off her TV earlier, drinking herbal tea at night, and making her bedroom a screen-free zone, she found her memory bouncing back. She said it was like lifting a heavy fog she didn't even know was there. So far, we've looked at the importance of mindful attention, challenging your brain with new experiences, and getting better sleep. These may sound simple, but they are incredibly effective. They help your brain stay focused, energized, and clear. You're not just preserving your memory, you're actively strengthening it day by day. Now that we've laid this foundation, let's continue with a few more tricks that can make just as much of a difference, things that are probably already part of your life, but with a little intention can become powerful tools for mental clarity. Because sometimes it's not about adding something new, but about doing what you already do, just a little more intentionally. That brings us to a trick that's both simple and surprisingly powerful: storytelling. We tend to think of storytelling as something for children: bedtime stories, fairy tales, family history. But the truth is, your brain loves stories. It's wired to remember them. When you turn facts or events into a narrative, even a short one, your brain is much more likely to retain the information. Let's say you meet someone new at church or in a social group. Instead of just hearing their name and immediately forgetting it, try building a tiny story around them. If their name is Susan and she mentions she loves to bake, say to yourself, "Susan makes sweet cinnamon rolls on Sundays." It doesn't have to be true, it just has to be memorable. That image, that little sentence, gives your brain something to hold on to. A man I once met at a senior center used this method all the time. His trick: he turned names into rhymes or connected them with an object the person was holding. He met a man named Mike who had a cane, and he said, "Mike with the cane rides the memory train." It sounded silly, but you know what? He remembered everyone's name, and they remembered him for making them smile. Another way to use storytelling is by reflecting on your own day. Before bed, mentally walk through the highlights of your day like you're telling a story to a friend. What did you do? Who did you speak with? What stood out? This small mental exercise helps organize short-term memories and move them into longer-term storage. Plus, it's a gentle, positive way to end the day. Now let's shift to something that might sound a little less exciting, but is absolutely vital for memory staying organized. Yes, the physical kind. Because here's the truth: a cluttered space often leads to a cluttered mind. If you're constantly misplacing items, forgetting appointments, or feeling mentally scattered, it might be because your environment is sending too many mixed signals. When everything is all over the place: papers, medications, keys, mail, your brain is working overtime to process it. That leads to mental fatigue. And when your brain is tired, it has a harder time forming and retrieving memories. You don't have to become a minimalist, but having clear, designated spaces for important items, like always keeping your glasses in the same spot, using a simple weekly planner, or setting reminders on your phone can take a lot of pressure off your mind. Think of it as giving your brain less to remember, so it can focus better on the things that truly matter. My neighbor Tom, who's 68, started keeping a small notebook by the front door. He writes down anything he needs to remember the next day, phone calls, appointments, even names of people he spoke to. At first, he worried it was a sign that his memory was slipping. But what he found instead was that the act of writing things down helped him remember them even without looking. It's not a weakness, it's a strategy. Now, while organization clears the clutter from your physical and mental space, there's another trick that brings a light into your mind, and that's laughter. Yes, Ryan, laughter. It may sound too simple to be true, but laughter is a natural brain booster. When you laugh, your brain releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that reduce stress and increase feelings of connection and joy. And when your stress levels go down, your memory performance goes up. Stress is one of the biggest enemies of memory. When you're anxious or overwhelmed, your brain shifts into survival mode. It focuses on immediate needs and forgets about storing information. That's why people often blank out during arguments or forget what they were going to say when they feel pressured. Laughter, even just a few moments of it, breaks that tension. It gives your mind a chance to breathe. I once visited a senior improv group in California. Most of the members were over 70, and they would meet once a week just to play games, make jokes, and tell silly stories. They weren't doing it to perform, they were doing it for their brains. And let me tell you, the atmosphere was electric. They were laughing constantly, and you could see it in their eyes. They were sharp, present, fully alive. That's what joy can do. It's medicine for your memory. Even if you're not the joking type, you can still bring more lightness into your day. Watch a funny video. Call that one friend who always makes you laugh, or find humor in everyday situations. It doesn't need to be loud or boisterous. A smile, a chuckle, a warm memory. These are all signals to your brain that it's okay to relax and function well. As we explore these tricks, I want to remind you that improving memory isn't about fighting against your age. It's about working with it. It's about understanding how your brain evolves and finding gentle, supportive ways to help it thrive. You don't have to feel powerless. You have more influence over your memory than you might believe. So whether it's giving your full attention to small tasks, trying something new to wake up your brain, prioritizing quality sleep, creating little stories to lock in memories, clearing physical clutter, or simply laughing more, every one of these choices is like watering a plant. You may not see a result overnight, but with time, your mental garden will bloom. Let's keep going, because there's one more trick I'd love to share with you. And this one, it's all about how you talk to yourself. Because believe it or not, the way you talk to yourself matters more than you might think, especially when it comes to memory. Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself saying things like, "I'm so forgetful these days," or "My brain just doesn't work like it used to"? Maybe it slips out when you can't recall a name or misplace your reading glasses. It feels harmless in the moment, almost like a joke. But here's the thing, your brain is listening. And the words you use, even quietly to yourself, shape the way your mind behaves. This final trick is simple, but powerful. Speak kindly to your brain. Give it encouragement. Believe in its ability to learn, to remember, to adapt. Because the more you tell yourself you're losing your memory, the more your brain begins to follow that script. It's like giving it a message to stop trying. There's something called stereotype threat, and it's real. Studies have shown that when older adults are told, or even subtly reminded, that memory declines with age, they perform worse on memory tasks. Not because they're incapable, but because the belief itself creates mental tension. It's like walking into a room already convinced you'll fail a test. But the opposite is also true. When seniors are reminded of their mental strengths, their wisdom, their life experience, their problem-solving skills, they perform better. That's the power of mindset. So start noticing the story you're telling yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm forgetful," try saying, I'm working on strengthening my memory. Instead of, I can't remember names anymore, try, I'm learning new ways to remember names better. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about giving yourself a fighting chance. Your brain responds to support, not shame. Treat it like a teammate, not a failing tool. There's a woman I knew named Eileen. She was 74, and I remember her saying something that stuck with me. I stopped calling it senior moments. Now I just call it pausing to reflect. That small shift in language helped her feel less embarrassed and more in control. And you know what? She started remembering things more easily. The pressure had lifted. And speaking of pressure, let's acknowledge something real here. Forgetfulness can be scary. It's easy to go down a spiral of worry, especially when memory changes seem sudden or more noticeable. But I want you to take a breath and remind yourself of something important. Aging doesn't mean fading. Change is not the same as decline. And every small step you take to care for your mind is a sign of strength, not weakness. Let's quickly revisit everything we talked about, not as a list of chores, but as a reminder of how much is within your control. You've learned to give your attention more mindfully, slowing down, noticing, saying things out loud to help your brain register the moment. You've explored the importance of trying new things to keep your mind sharp and awake. You've seen how better sleep supports mental clarity, and how even a small change to your bedtime routine can help your brain recharge. You've added the art of storytelling to your toolkit, turning names and moments into memorable images. You've discovered how organization clears space for your mind to work more freely. And you've laughed. Hopefully you've laughed, because joy truly is brain food. And now you've taken the final step, changing the way you speak to yourself. Choosing encouragement over criticism, patience over panic. Together, these aren't just memory tricks. They're a way of life, a gentle, caring way to walk through your day with clarity, intention, and hope. Because what's really at stake here isn't just remembering facts or faces. It's about staying connected to what makes life rich and meaningful. It's about remembering birthdays, stories, inside jokes, the way someone you love smiles when you say their name. It's about holding on to who you are, your history, your voice, your presence, and continuing to write new chapters in your life, no matter your age. And you don't have to do it all perfectly. Progress doesn't mean never forgetting, it means forgetting less and feeling more empowered when you do. It means being curious, playful, and gentle with yourself, because there's still so much to explore in the world and in your own mind. I'd love to know, have you tried any of these memory-strengthening habits already? Or is there one you're excited to try starting today? Let me know in the comments. Your experiences matter, and when you share, you just might help someone else feel encouraged too. If this video gave you something to think about or made you feel more hopeful, go ahead and give it a like. It helps us reach more people who might be struggling with the same questions. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos with more tips to help you stay healthy, strong, and independent at every age. Remember, memory is not something you lose overnight. It's something you can care for, rebuild, and nurture just like a muscle, just like a garden. And you, my friend, are absolutely worth the effort. So here's to each new day, to taking little steps that lead to big changes, to walking into a room and not just remembering why, but feeling good about how far you've come. You're still learning, you're still growing, and your story is far from over. Here's to living with clarity, with purpose, and with pride at any age.